Welcome to the Third and Central podcast, the only podcast dedicated solely to the University of Louisville baseball program. This is Matt Sefcovic, and as always, I'm joined by Terry Pennington from Inside Louisville Baseball. Terry, we're kind of at a point in the year that all eyes are about to be on the city of Louisville for a different reason than you and I are excited about, but the Kentucky Derby, we're approaching single digits away. So there's a lot to be excited about going on in the city right now, but there's a lot of baseball action with the Louisville Cardinals. It's kind of we've talked about this moment in the schedule for a long time now, that we're kind of at the meat of the schedule. It's a gauntlet right now with the series we played this weekend against Clemson and Florida State on the horizon. And then you kind of sandwich in games against Kentucky and Western. So this is a really, really tough part of the schedule. So we'll dive into that in a few minutes. I know you've kind of taken the road trips to all the series this year, so you got to spend some time down at Clemson this weekend. So we'll cover that here in a few minutes. But how's everything going your way? I know you had to take in that tough loss last night in Lexington.
Yeah, a lot of baseball for sure, a lot of travel. I definitely, obviously I love doing it. So, I wouldn't be making the rounds if I didn't enjoy it. So, I love getting to go out and see all these other ballparks, be able to support the boys on the road and whatnot. I'm definitely not a press box guy in any way, a little stuffy in there for me. It's not really my vibe. So, I like to be out there rooting for the boys and cheering and, doing my duties, try to get around, snap some photos, that type of stuff. But yeah, a lot of baseball, nights there's no college baseball. I typically try to find a commit to try to find a high school game. And so, yeah, man, just a lot of ball for sure. And, thankful for a home weekend here coming up.
Yeah, 'tis the season. It's high school, like you said, is started up and it's kind of ramping up right now, and obviously college is in the thick of it. So let's kind of hop into where Louisville sits right now. They're 28-12 overall, 10-8 in conference play, which puts them 7th in the league out of 16 teams. D1 Baseball has them ranked 19th. Baseball America has them 19th. Coaches Poll has them at 21, and Perfect Game has them unranked, which that's where they've been in Perfect Game for a long, long time. So that I'm not sure what obviously right now they've lost the series, but before that I couldn't really wrap my head around what was going on with Perfect Game. But nonetheless, ELO is at 23 and RPI just moved up to 21 today. Just for reference, we are recording tonight, Wednesday, after the Kentucky game, just to kind of so you know where these numbers are coming from, because with RPI and all the metrics, they do fluctuate real time. So that's kind of where we are at this point in time. So tough schedule coming up, but we just, I think, came off a really, really encouraging series at Clemson. Even though you lose the series, you're playing the number 3 team on the road at their place. And I think you really had an opportunity to win all 3 games, right? So I don't think you can really come away discouraged, especially when you're missing your ace who would have thrown on Thursday, Patrick Forbes. He was out. You lose that game 7-6 and had many of opportunities to win that game, really. You had the 3-0 lead obviously early in the first. Clemson responds with 3 in the first. They tied it right back up. Then you take a 5-3 lead. So it was kind of back and forth, but there were many times throughout the game that Louisville was winning. Ultimately, Crichton hit a bomb in the 7th, which ended up being the kind of the game winner for the Tigers. And you talked to Coach Mack about this after the game, and baseball is a game of hindsight's 20/20. It is what it is. Brennan Cutts was dealing. I think you had mentioned to Coach Mack after the game, they hadn't hit a ball out of the infield on him, and he was pulled for Daniel Levitch, and then the home run was to the next batter. And I think I talked to a couple people after the game. 2 things can be true. Cutts was dealing, right? Like there's no doubt about that. Like you said, they weren't making solid contact on him. But Daniel Levitch had been your best bullpen arm up to that point through the season. So, it's a tough call to make. And it's one of those things that, unfortunately, sometimes you make the wrong decision. Louisville did out-hit Clemson 9-5. So it was just kind of a frustrating loss for the fans, but you're in the game till the very end, which was encouraging. You just hate to see how they took the loss on Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean it was a really tough one. I mean, tip of the cap to Casen Murphy for the start. I mean, obviously he does give up the homer, but I mean, outside of that kid was nails, man. I mean, so excited for him. Tough spot on the road. I mean, that's the best. That is the best by far road environment in the ACC. Florida State's really good too. I enjoy being down there. When they get a big crowd, it can be very fun down there as well. But Clemson's the best. They pack that place out. It's loud. It's small in there. We kind of talked about that a little bit. The students are right on you. I mean, that they got a bunch of old people yelling at you to get back in. Get back in the box. Get back in the on deck circle, as though anyone stands in the on deck circle. So just tough environment. He went out there. I mean, the kid had it dialed in. Yeah, it was the one mistake. That's it though. And so that's super encouraging, right? Just to see a freshman on the road, that environment, give him the ball on a Thursday night, top 20 matchup, and the kid goes out and twirls it like that. Man, it was awesome. I was super excited for him. Yeah, you get to the kind of the inflection point of the game, right? And Cuts that's as good as he's been. Since he was really good at NC State too, also before it kind of got away from there that last inning as he kind of sat, for a little bit longer, maybe 25 or more minutes when I don't know how many runs we were scoring, at 9 runs in that 7th inning or whatever it was. But so he had that long time to sit there, but he's been really, really good the last couple times out. And I know that when I asked Dan the question, it's so first off, I don't like asking him questions like that. And to be honest, I usually don't. Again, as I've said a million times on here, the main thing I'm trying to always do is just I want to be positive about the program. I want to be kind of someone who comes at it from like an uplifting standpoint. But sometimes there are questions that have to be asked, right? And I felt like I knew what he was going to say, but I asked him anyway. I knew he was going to tell. I even told him, I know you're going to tell me it's the matchup, it's the numbers, it's whatever. But do you have any? And he did. He copped to it, right? I mean, and that's the hardest part about baseball is it's the ultimate second guess game where everybody at home can have access to the same numbers that you have as a coach. Whether it be the lefty splits, righty right, whatever those things may be. And so, yeah, for the first half of the season, White's been your guy, right? So you go to him, and that night just wasn't his night, and that happens. And so I'm sure you look back at it, a fan does, a coach does, a player does. Man, I wish we might have done something a little different here, and that's just sports in general. So tough one right there for sure. Wyatt, like you said, he's been the guy this year in terms of just like steady hand in the bullpen. You know what you're going to get for the most part, game to game. And so he was bound to have a night like that, at some point. And unfortunately, that was kind of the one.
Yeah, and it was just kind of one of those ones that you feel like got away from you. And if you can go into that game on a Thursday night with Murphy on the mound, making his first start, in a like you said, a crazy environment down there at Clemson, if you can steal that one, you feel really, really good about the rest of the weekend. You're like, okay, if we can sneak that first one out, then we feel good about, having Peter Michael on the mound and the rest of the bullpen that you didn't have to utilize on Thursday. It was kind of discouraging, but they continued to fight all weekend long. I think that if you go back and count how many times we've said, fight or battle or, relentless this season, I hate to sound like Kenny Payne, but that's kind of the makeup of this team. That's just who they are. They battle to the very end, and Friday was no different. It was frustrating in a different way because it was so uncharacteristic of this Louisville team that we've seen all year. We're used to seeing them score 8, 10, 12, 15 runs, and then you come out in the first 8 innings, you don't score a single run. But the good thing is your bullpen was able to hold up and keep the Clemson bats pretty quiet for the majority of the game as well. Drew Titsworth, I mean, the guy came in first start of the season, hadn't started all year, and was just immaculate. I mean, Clemson puts him out there on the mound starting probably like Louisville did on Thursday with Murphy. They're like, okay, if he can go get us 2 or 3 innings, we'll turn this thing over to the bullpen. Well, 6 innings later, he's still on the mound and hasn't given up a single run yet. So I think that was huge for Backage, just in his staff and how they were going to able to manage that game and the rest of the weekend. But we get to the 9th inning, Louisville's down 2 runs, and they're still battling. Jake Monroe hits a bomb to get within 1. So here we are. You're within 1 run, tying runs at the plate. Top of the 9th inning at the number 3 team in the country. So they still didn't give up, even though they weren't able to produce offensively like they have all year, which I think goes to show just how this team is made up. But you've got to tip your hat, I think, to the pitching staff. The guys that threw that day, Eberle, Schlager, Schweitzer, and Hartman. I mean, giving up 2 runs. I mean, a couple of those guys are freshmen. Just in that environment, man, you have to feel positive coming off a game like that. Even though you lose, it's like, we just gave up 2 runs to the number 3 team in the country. Like, I think you feel pretty good. Even though you take a loss, there's not many moral victories for the Louisville baseball program. I mean, that's not something they're going to hang their hat on. But I think as a staff and as a fan, like, you can't feel bad about a 2-1 loss at the number 3 team in the country.
I think I'm pretty sure Ethan Eberle was throwing a no-hitter through 4 innings.
Yeah, he was.
I think he took a no-hitter into the 5th. He was giving me flashbacks of Hartman last year at Boston College. I'll never forget that Hartman, I'm pretty positive his first pitch of the game sailed into the, way above the catcher's head to the backstop. And then after that, he just calmed down and he went 6+ no-hit innings. Kid was unbelievable. But, Eberle was dialed in from the word go. And, isn't it so crazy to see how different kids develop when they come in, and whether it's the most heralded of kids or a kid that's a little bit overlooked, or, it doesn't really seem to matter. Are you willing to put the work in? Are you willing to do the extra things necessary to, get yourself an expanded role? Are you willing to learn from mistakes and things like that? And man, it's been fun to watch his development from the time he came in. I've talked on here before about seeing him throw in the summer a couple summers ago, and he was a kid that, pitched for the Illinois team, Team Illinois down in Texas and things like that, with another Louisville kid, Cole Crafton, on that team, and I believe even a former commit, Ethan Moore, was on that team. I mean, it was like a who's who of Louisville commits down there at Dallas Baptist a couple summers ago. But he's just so even-keeled. He's just a laid-back, just a chill dude, and he's just perfect for that environment. And again, obviously Friday, evening, big crowd, no more class, any of that stuff for the weekend. I mean, they pretty much filled that place up all weekend, and man, he came in there, put us right in the game. And the other thing that you said was, when you start to run through those names of guys that pitched this weekend, think of all the underclassmen that threw big-time innings. And when you look back at what happened at NC State the weekend before versus what happened at Clemson, and we'll get to Saturday in a minute where the pitching wasn't quite as good, but the steps these kids took from week to week in road environments and in a tougher road environment. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you couldn't be encouraged. And one of the things Dan said to me was, no matter what, and he said it Friday, which I thought was funny because it was almost like it was a preemptive strike, before he knew what the outcome was going to be on Saturday. And they did happen to win, so it's, it makes it even better. But he said, no matter what happens tomorrow, we got better this weekend. And there's no argument to be made otherwise. Huge step in the right direction for the pitching staff. And for these kids to go into an environment like that against the number 3 team in the country and know we can do it at this level in this place, if you can do it there, you can do it anywhere. I mean, period. I don't care if it's Tennessee, if it's Arkansas, if it's Georgia, if it's LSU, any of those SEC schools, if you can do it on the road at Clemson, you can do it anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that lets you know, again, when you look at some of the wins that this team has stacked up, Texas, North Carolina, all these great quad 1 wins that we already have. And yeah, you're right. No moral victories for sure. This program is well past that.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be encouraged all the same of what the ceiling is for these kids going forward based on their performance last weekend.
And, one thing you touched on, and I talked about a little bit, is just the underclassmen. And, you hate to, and I'm not wishing this season away, but, I mean, think about a year from now, 2 years from now, when these guys are underclassmen, if these guys stay together and this roster is able to stay intact for the next couple of years. I mean, we've got freshmen right now that are throwing some of the most meaningful innings down the stretch in big time moments on the road. I mean, that stuff, you can't replicate that. So I think just the growth that we're seeing from them and just the position that they've been put in and how they've been able to deliver, even though you didn't get the win Thursday or Friday, just the performance that they were able to put on paper, you just can't replicate that at home, and you can't replicate that pitching against yourself in practice at Jim Patterson Stadium. So I think seeing them able to deliver in those big time moments, it's going to be huge the rest of this season, but also beyond that down the road. And I think that gets me really excited when you start looking at kind of roster management for 2026 and beyond. I think this team has a big opportunity to be a pretty special team in a couple of years.
I will say that there are definitely, just to piggyback on that for just a second, there are definitely people around the program that think that this team next year is a better team even than this year. That's not being said really out loud or anything like that, but there are people kind of around the team. I'm not saying it's coming from coaches or anything like that, but there are people kind of around that definitely think next year's, especially like you're saying, when you start to look at pitching, you start to look around the diamond and see who's probably back, who's not, who's draft, who's not draft, those type of things. You got to feel pretty encouraged about the trajectory of the program. And again, think about the fact of how well we pitched and played those 2 games. And yes, they were losses, but we're without our 2 best, our number 1 and number 2 starters. And we're without our number 1 and number 2 catcher. And so, you're starting, you start 2 freshmen on the road against Clemson. You could have easily won both of those games. And you're with your third and fourth catchers catching on the weekend. I don't know, man. You got, they are losses, but you got to tip the cap to the boys for the way they battle and the way they continue to show up and do their job.
And not only that, to pile on to the injuries, you've got Alisea in the lineup, but they've had to knock him down to the bottom third just because that hand is giving him problems when he bats. Coach Mack has talked about that, so they're trying to limit his at-bats, which you hate that because he's one of your best hitters, but if that keeps him on the field, it's worth it. I'd rather have him at the bottom of the lineup than not having the lineup at all, right? So not only do you not have a couple pitchers and a couple catchers, like your shortstop is limited in his ability right now too. So I've talked about this off camera. Man, this team just they cannot catch a break right now. So hopefully we can get some of these dudes back before the postseason or for a couple of weeks so we can, get at full strength. But I think all in all, you've got to be encouraged with the way this weekend went down at Clemson. And then, so let's talk about Sunday a little bit because the result was a little bit better. I think I'm going to steal a line from Coach Mack. He talks about this, quite a bit with this program. He says, we always preach never get too high and never get too low, right? And, you come off 2 losses at Clemson. It'd have been easy to get, really low. You play well in both the games, well enough to win, but you don't. So it's tough to come back on Saturday and be prepared to win a baseball game. But it's something they really had to do. I mean, you can't go down there and get swept. It's a tough look. And you win a game, that's a big boost in your RPI, which we saw a little bit of. So they go down there, they win 8-6 in a thriller in 12 innings. They had the lead in the ninth and gave up around the bottom of the ninth to tie it up. Had a 2-run lead again in the 10th and gave up 2 runs in the bottom of the 10th again. And then in the 12th, Tague Davis hit a 2-run bomb that ultimately ended up being the game winner. Eddie King Jr. stayed hot again, hit another bomb. I mean, the heater that this guy's on right now, my gosh. If he continues this throughout the end of the season, big things are going to be ahead for Eddie King Jr. The bullpen, like you said, they weren't as strong as they were the first couple games. We mentioned, but as you start get into the later innings of the weekend, you're having to reuse some arms or use some new arms that you maybe didn't anticipate using. And something I talked to somebody about today is, when you've got Forbes out and you've got Detmers out, like somebody's got to chew up those innings to start. So then who takes the bullpen innings? Well, somebody's got to step up into that spot. So, it's a snowball effect. So when you're at the third game, late innings of a weekend series, you start to feel those pains, and both teams do. I mean, everybody does. That's not just Louisville, but nonetheless, Louisville comes away with a big win to salvage a series and take one on the road against one of the best teams in the country. So I think you have to be happy with the way the weekend played out and the big win they picked up on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, what a fun baseball game.
It was.
I mean, obviously there was a lot of emotional highs and lows in there, but just the back and forth, the competitiveness of the game was one of those games where, we had to kind of make the run late, to kind of get ourselves in there. And obviously Eddie, I mean, what more can you say about what Eddie's been doing the last, 4+ weeks or whatever it's been? I mean, it's, he got started like a month and a half early versus, what he's done the previous kind of 2 years where he has really heated up, but it's just kind of been the last month or so. And the funny part is, over the course of the summer, I saw Coach Vrabel out at Grant Park, and it was right after up in Indy. We're watching a high school tournament, and Eddie had just announced that he was coming back to school, and we were kind of talking about how full the outfield was, and just there's all these guys, and I mean we even had the is it Noel that had transferred in, and he ends up going to Minnesota because it's too many guys, and he said, can you imagine? I mean, this is word for word what Coach Vrabel said to me. Can you imagine what it'd be like if he has a full season the way he hits, the last month? That's exactly what's basically happened. I mean,
that's what we're getting right now, right?
It's exactly the way it's playing out. And so, I mean, I don't have to imagine it anymore. It is happening. I mean, you're in the middle of, there are people all over, no matter what ballpark you go in. Eddie seems to hit a homer, or he comes up with a big hit, or he, whatever it is, ropes a double, whatever it is to, just makes the right play, seems to come up clutch all the time. You've got people all over ballparks being like, that guy's the guy. His swing is so pretty. That guy's got the bright, you hear it from everyone, whether it's scouts, fans, opposing fans, anybody. I mean, he's been special to watch this year. Just couldn't be more happy for him, honestly, just the way the year has developed. Obviously, he gets hurt early on and he's kind of forced to ease back into it. And you can tell his hamstring, he's still not right. Mm-hmm. I mean, when he, when you try to see him leg a double out to second, I mean, you can tell it's not full go. I mean, he looks like me running out there. So, and that's not good for anybody. So, I just feel like that day, though, you saw, again, the future of this program on display in the later innings. Again, Tague Davis, what more can you say, man? I mean, when he was taking BP, I think I've said it on the podcast before, when he was taking BP down in Arlington and he's hitting moonshots up into, halfway up the lower deck, at the Rangers Stadium. I told Steven the SID, I think he's going to hit 16. And Steven was like, I don't know, man. That's a lot, like ACC pitching and all this other stuff. Kid's got 15 already. I mean, there's no way he's easily on pace for 20 plus. I think he leads all freshmen in the country in homers.
Yeah, he's a leader in the country.
Kid's unbelievable. And it's not just the hitting, though. The development at first base, I don't think you could ever overstate it. I wish more people would have seen, and I'm not saying he was bad, but from watching him in the fall to now, you would never believe that's the same guy. He seems to pick everything. His footwork is great. The way they have helped him out and that he has worked so hard to develop over there, the sky's the limit for that kid of what he can accomplish in college baseball. And then on the mound, I've not been shy in any way talking about how much I love watching Jake Schweitzer, and man, was he good. And, I talked to him after the game about the mindset of, obviously, he comes in, he gets that ground ball, and you think that game's over. And, it's airmailed a little bit. You got to reset. And that's not an easy thing to do, and especially for a freshman in that environment. And he reset it perfect. And what did he spend? 2.1 innings of no hit ball?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
I mean, come on, man. Like, that's absolutely ridiculous. So, those two guys, man, I just couldn't be more excited for both of them. I say all the time, about some of these kids, but, those two kids for sure as well. Great ball players, better dudes, and just couldn't be happier for those guys and for the team to pick up that W. I know that made the ride home a lot sweeter for sure on Saturday night, I guess.
I do want to flash back a little bit to the third inning on Saturday as well. Justin West came in, I think, with a runner on first and second, if I'm not mistaken. Then he gave up a single, so bases loaded, no outs, and then strikes out 3 batters in a row. I mean, I think it was, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6 in the Clemson lineup. I mean, it was the heart of the order, and you're talking that's a chance that Clemson really had the opportunity to blow that thing open. And you're on a Saturday game looking for a sweep. If they go up, a handful of runs on a Saturday, that game probably looks a lot different. But, 3 straight strikeouts to the heart of the order really, I think, was part of the reason we were able to set the tone and to continue battle for the rest of the game.
And the one thing about West is I love the way that kid just keeps coming back, man. I mean, it doesn't matter if he has a great outing or a bad outing. It doesn't seem to faze him in any way. He comes right back. I mean, he has no, he's the ultimate pitcher mindset-wise, it seems like, in terms of just being able to reset. I mean, he's had some times this year where it's been fantastic. And he's had some times this year where I'm sure he'd like a do-over. And for him to just continue to come out there, look, you're 100% right. That's as big a spot as there is in that game, because that could have got away in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
And, all it takes is for him to hang one of those curveballs, and, that game might have gotten out of hand very quickly. And for him to come back with those 3 Ks right there was just exactly what they needed and almost had to have at that point. And, man, fun to watch that kid deliver, in the big, in that pressure moment. Again, just boost that confidence going forward for him to just, again, know, look, this, again, big moment, heart of the order, Omaha type roster over there across the diamond from you, sits him right down. That was awesome. You're exactly right. It's a great call by you.
Before we kind of turn the page on Clemson, just kind of final thoughts. For me personally, I think you go down to Clemson and your pitching staff gives up 15 runs in 3 games. Only 10 of those were earned. I just, you see a lot of negativity online on Twitter, and Twitter fingers get going because, they lost the series. But I was so pleased Saturday evening once that game ended with how they were able to perform down there. Sure, we had a chance to win a couple games. We won one, but when you're playing one of the best teams in the country at their place, rowdy environment, they got the grills going. They got 4,000 or 5,000, probably more than that, fans in the stadium. You watch it on TV, or I listened a little bit of Sean this weekend, depending on what was going on. They complained about every single call that's made. It didn't matter if it was a ball or a strike the first pitch of the game, or if it was, the out to end the game in a one-run game the bottom of the ninth. They complained the exact same way for 9 innings, and I'm sure you saw it on full display being there. But, man, it was just nonstop. And every time one of their players was called out or safe or whatever the situation was, they were looking for a review. Like, it was just like, and Sean was giving them a hard time on the radio. Down there, that's just how they are. But he's 100% spot on. And I'm sure you got to see a little bit of it live in person too.
Yeah, I mean, I've remarked that it's my favorite place to go, and it is just because of the environment. And that's, that type of environment, that's what I dream of for what it could be like here. And I know they have better weather down there. It's a little warmer. They have some extra intangibles kind of around, just in terms of some seating things. And yeah, they've got that Cajun cafe out there. Man, I want Tague to hit one out in that cafe one time, but that's all right. The one in left center is better. But they got it. Like you said, the grills are going, everything's going. They got the huge, stands out in the left, the ball fly. It's awesome. I mean, it's college baseball at its finest down there, to be completely honest. And when you mention, these people on Twitter and what they do, I mean, I don't pay too much attention unless people jump into my mentions and things like that. But, like, to be honest, most of these people that hop on, if you're not encouraged coming off of last weekend, then you're just showing that you have no idea what you're talking about. Are you a box score watcher? Are you someone that just sees, the final score and get posted underneath and then feels some necessary need to jump on and say negative things about kids? Get a life, please. I mean, that's outlandishly moronic. But if you are truly invested in this ball club and have been watching them all the way through this year, there is no way you come away from last weekend anything but encouraged. They could have lost all 3, but they could have won all 3. And yeah, maybe that kind of stings in a way because you want another one. You want to be greedy. You take another one for sure. But look, that schedule last week with Western, followed by 3 at Clemson, man, a 2-2 week is a good week. I don't care. I'm not willing to listen to anybody that says otherwise. A 2-2 week was a very good week last week, and there's nothing more for me to say than that. I was completely encouraged, just like you.
And you look at the polls; nobody really punished Louisville that much. You go 2-2 against 4 ranked teams. I mean, yeah, you didn't win your weekend series, but I mean, you're at the number 3 team in the country. Nobody. I mean, yes, we want to win, but nobody expects you. You're not going to punish you because you go to the number 3 team in the country and you're competitive and lose the series. And I think the fact that we're talking about how we shoulda, coulda, woulda won that series at the number 3 team in the country, I think shows a lot about the team, right? About the makeup of this roster, because we could have been like, they went down there and dropped 3 clunkers. No, that's not what we're saying. It's a completely different story than that. So I think this team is primed for a series like that. But before we get another series against Florida State, we did have to endure a midweek against Kentucky. And if you want to be frustrated, put your frustration towards the game we saw on Tuesday, because it was. And the players will tell you that. Coach McDonald told you that after the game when you talked to him. I'll let you kind of talk about that because you were there and you got to see it. But Louisville got beat in Lexington, run rule fashion, and it just wasn't pretty. After beating them in Louisville walk-off just a couple weeks ago, Louisville walked 11 batters. They hit 6 more batters. Kentucky was locked in, sure, but we struggled to find the plate. and Kentucky didn't even bat 3 times because it was a run rule. So it definitely could have been even more lopsided. But nonetheless, that's over. Louisville and Kentucky split the season series, but Louisville is still 15-5 over Kentucky in the last 20 games. So yeah, we lost this one, but I'll take 15-5 over our rival in the last 20 games. So I know being there, I'm sure that was a tough one to take in. But how was it? I obviously you got to go to a beautiful ballpark at Clemson, and then follow that up by by going to Kentucky Proud Park, which is just a stunning facility. But outside of that, how was your experience in Lexington on Tuesday night?
I mean, great, again, great weather. I mean, so, when you're talking about, like we're leading up to Derby, right? So you'd mentioned that at the beginning. The weather around here starts to really pick up, so you're encouraged by that. You get something out in the 70s, late, early, late evening game, whatever you want to call it. And man, it seemed like it was there for the taking, right? Because how it went last time, and you're encouraged because we pitched very well against them the time before. We had pitched very well against Clemson, 2 of the 3. And so you're thinking like, all right, maybe we've got this thing dialed in. Yeah, we pitched well against Western. All these things, like it's trending in the right direction, and man, it just didn't happen. Just it just seemed like nothing went right, honestly. And there were, whether it's, they get the one in the first, but it's kind of right. We kind of get out of a little jam there, and it looks like maybe we're only going to give one up in the second, and again out of a jam, and then all of a sudden, man, it's the number one thing I've always complained about that stupid Kentucky Proud Park is the way the sun comes in like that at that time of night. And they have the way it opens, like, for you to enter into the stadium, the sun comes right in there, in at the pitcher, in at the center fielder. It's kind of a low overhang. Man, just really unfortunate that Lucas lost that ball in the sun, because that's 3 runs. And to be honest, that was kind of the beginning of the end, unfortunately. And there's nothing you can do about it. It happens. It could happen to anybody. And unfortunately, it happened. It happened, when we were out there in the field that time, and they cleared the bases, and it was on. And we struggled to find the strike zone again. And boy, oh boy, it was, thank goodness. I'm not even joking. Thank goodness for the run rule. Let's just get that one over, and let's get on to the next one. But yeah, talking to Coach Mack after the game, I mean, he apologized to Louisville fans. I mean, he wanted to apologize to anybody who paid money and spent time to come to the game out there. He apologized even to fans who streamed the game on their phone or computer or watch on your TV. I mean, and he even apologized to people who took the time to listen on the radio. He said, just point blank, I mean, if you're a fan of the red and black, that was not a good night for you. And they, he and the ball club owed people an apology for that performance. And I'll be honest, I try to get to the ballpark hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on if we're home or road. 2 hours at home, hour and a half on the road, to make sure I can watch BP. And it just seemed a little dead. It's been a long couple weeks, just with those road trips, and you're down a couple guys. And so, like you had mentioned earlier, the pitching staff has kind of different guys have had to continue to step up into different roles. And you've got catchers even, we've got, Maury was going to redshirt, and now he's catching, every other game. And so, there's a lot of guys doing things that they were not doing at one point, or, we're not planning on doing when the season started. And so, games like last night will happen. It's really unfortunate that it happened, against Kentucky at their place, and, you get their fans chirping and whatever else may happen, but it's just one game. To me anyway. Again, I'm not someone that grew up here, so I don't have that like inherent hate in me. Definitely not a program that I have any respect for, and that's for sure. But just as far as, feeling like we have to beat them or else, it's going to ruin my week or something. I don't feel that way. And I know some fans do, and maybe don't want to have those discussions with your buddies, ragging on your whatever it may be. But man, it's just one game. That's how I view it. The RPI would have dropped 2-3 spots.
Yeah.
Again, I hate to say anything good about UK, but I mean, they're not some bums. It's a pretty good ball club. They just won 2 of 3 at Tennessee. I mean, they got a really good roster. So, maybe Louisville fans don't want to hear that or whatever the case may be, but it's a series split. Doesn't matter if you win one by 20 or you win by 1. They all count the same, and you move on to the next weekend.
Yeah, it was a tough night in Lexington. I don't want to talk about it any longer because I don't want us both to get upset. But one thing I do want to talk about the game, and it's a concept I've talked about and I've tweeted about it probably the past couple of years, and you and I talked about it this evening, and Coach Mack even mentioned a little bit this week on his radio show, is trying to get this game with Kentucky as a 3-game series. And Coach Mack mentioned it, and he was like, I don't have the full quote in front of me, but I listened to it the other night, and he alluded to that's something that they'd like to do. And if you look around the country, some of the other SEC and ACC games, Clemson and Georgia Tech, they'll kind of do a rotating like weekend series. They'll play one at one home team, one at the other home team, and then one at a neutral site. So, Louisville and Kentucky could play a game at Jim Patterson Stadium, then play one at Kentucky Proud Park, and then the third game of the weekend, or third game of the series, rotate it somewhere, Legend Stadium or Louisville Slugger Field, or Terry, you mentioned when we were talking about it before, even maybe going down to Bowling Green and playing the Hot Rods, or going up to the Yalls and, playing. I just think that you talk about growth of college baseball. I think the game right now is in a huge growth point. Like, you're seeing a lot more fans that are paying attention to college baseball now, more so than ever. I think the state of Kentucky is lagging behind a little bit from a lot of parts of the country. But I think if you can start introducing high-level baseball from Louisville and Kentucky in Bowling Green, and not that Western's not great, I'm not saying that, but into Northern Kentucky and, different areas, and just kind of expanding the fan base that we have for the 2 big programs in this state, man, I think that would be massive for college baseball in the state of Kentucky. And obviously then you get a winner, right? This year, Louisville and Kentucky split, and it's like, oh, well, I punched you once, you punched me once, and the fight was over, right? Like, if you play a 3-game series, like, I get bragging rights if I win, 2 or 3. Nobody has that this year. So I just think it would be huge for the growth of the game in the state of Kentucky. So whatever we need to get that going, Third and Central Podcast, myself and Terry, we are full steam ahead. So whatever we need to do, we'll send any emails. So just reach out to us, and we got y'all covered.
Yeah, like you mentioned, there's more than enough minor league ballparks or places like that throughout the state that you could rotate it around year to year. Everybody, like you said, everyone gets, Louisville and UK both get a home game. But there's, I mentioned Bowling Green just because that's a place that's away from both places that you could, but there's still Louisville and UK fans down there. So let's go down there and encourage those teams, maybe those high school teams down that area. Let's get them out. Like, that's good for recruiting, all those different things. So, yeah, Y'alls, there's, Lexington Legend. It's not quite as nice, but it's big enough. Obviously the Bats. I mean, there's plenty of places. There's one other schedule thing I do just want to mention because it is happening next week. And Coach Mack had mentioned it a couple years ago after the game. So the Louisville Bellarmine game, first off, is for Louisville, that's a tough one to take RPI wise. Obviously, completely understand why you play it. You got to play the hometown team. All good, no issues there. But I would love to see that get moved downtown during Derby week. Mm-hmm. It makes way too much sense. Whether the Bats are at home that week or not, you can find a way to play that during the day or whatever else. Let it be a matinee game before. Let people come in and see both games if they want to stay or whatever, 2 for the price of 1 type deal. however they want to split the cost or whatever has to happen. But for Louisville's sake, it makes it a neutral site game, which is better for your RPI. And it just makes so much sense for the city to have that be played downtown that week. So I think it was done that way 2 years ago, I believe. And Coach Mack had said that he was, in the post game at that time, that was something they wanted to do going forward, is kind of make that a part of the week and just something else to be excited about and whatever, get people down there. And so I don't know whatever happened to that. I'm sure that the Bats are either home or whether they're not, but obviously it's probably not cheap to get that facility or whatever the case may be. But man, there's just a couple things I just feel like could help grow the game, whether it's in the city, in the state. And like, look, there's some decent high school baseball in this state. There's some teams around, whether it's down in Bowling Green, you got, out in Paducah, there's obviously some teams in Louisville. You got those Lexington teams. Look, man, there's more than enough players in this state that those two programs are grabbing from. And to be able to move some of those games around, have it be just make it a bigger deal than it already is. Who would argue for that, right? Who doesn't want to beat UK another time during the year? So yeah, I'm in full support of that for sure.
Yeah, I think it would be awesome. And I've talked about it for a while just because you see, some of the other schools around the country kind of have a similar format, kind of jokingly, but also kind of like it'd be awesome to do. But to hear Coach Mack, kind of say that they would, he's in favor or he would love to have it. I don't want to misquote him because I don't have it in front of me, but, he basically said that's something they'd like to do. So I'd love to see that as part of that rivalry going forward. And like you said, even the Bellarmine, get creative with that kind of stuff. I think that just drives fan engagement. It's going to drive people to the ballpark no matter what, just because, they want to be downtown. They want to be at the Bat Stadium. I think it would just be a really cool touch on Derby week. So since we're in the spirit of Derby, let's talk about the Florida State series this weekend, because we've got some Derby festivities that are starting up this weekend. Louisville's typically at home this weekend because Derby weekend they're obviously not going to play college baseball here right across the street from the Kentucky Derby. So they're typically home the weekend before. And this year they're lucky to draw the number 4 team in the country in Florida State, who is, in my opinion, just top to bottom, offense, defense, just pitching. I mean, one of the best teams in the country. Like it would not surprise me one bit if we see the Seminoles in Omaha. I mean, they are just I think they're a juggernaut of a college baseball team this year, and it starts on the mound. But they're 30-7. They're 11-4 in conference play. They did miss the series last weekend. I believe it was with Virginia due to the shooting on campus. So obviously our thoughts and prayers go out to that situation and the families affected by that tragedy that took place on campus in Tallahassee last weekend. So they did not play last weekend. They did get their midweekend this week. They won that game. So they're, they haven't played many games in a while, but so they're going to be well rested. But at the same time, like that stuff's just heavy, man. Like they're just, coming off something like that it's hard to get back on the mound and step back between the lines. So just, it's such a unique and terrible experience that they're going through down there in Tallahassee. But Jamie Arnold is who Louisville's going to see on Friday night. And if you've been around college baseball for a while, you know the name. I mean, he's probably going to be a top 5 pick this year in the draft. I mean, dude is just, if you want to see a special pitcher and get to Jim Patterson Stadium Friday night, because he's a big time arm. There's probably not going to be a ton of offense on Friday night. He's just that dude. I mean, he's one of the, if not the best pitcher in the country. He's 4-1 with a 2.40 ERA, and then they don't slide off much on Saturday. Joey Vellini, 8-1 with a 2.39 ERA, so just a tad below Arnold. Both of those guys individually are top 30 in the country in earned run average, and then they turned over on Sunday to Wes Mendez, who's at 3.83. So, I mean, it's, these numbers, if that's the I don't want to say worst, but if that's the the lowest ERA of one of your weekend starters you got, then you've got a pretty darn good thing going. Just that three-headed monster. I mean, that's tough to overcome. Alex Lodis leading the team with a 4.29 average. He's second in the team in home runs with 13. I mean, again, if you want to watch a special talent, tune in. I mean, this dude is offensively in the plate. He's special. Defensively at shortstop, he gets to balls and makes plays that just he should not get to. Hit a walk-off grand slam against Florida earlier in the season, which was a pretty cool moment for him against one of your big rivals. They're hitting 322 as a team, so just because they're doing all this on the mound, it's like, oh, well, they're offensively they're not as good. No, that's not the case here. I mean, this team, I kind of review the teams to see what we're kind of going into to talk about on the podcast. And last week I was like, we can go down and beat Clemson. I felt fairly confident, not confident, but I felt encouraged that there were some holes in that lineup. You look at this Florida State team and it's like, man, like where are their weaknesses? It's like they pitch well, they hit well. Like it's going to be a tough weekend. Louisville's going to have to play really, really clean baseball. They're going to have to throw first pitch strikes. They're going to have to avoid, 3-ball counts like we've been getting into a couple times, a couple games recently. So they're going to have the work cut out for them this weekend. I think we're going to learn a lot about this roster this weekend against Florida State.
Yeah, it's so crazy because I've talked on here a few different times about one of the things I do really enjoy doing while going around seeing all these games. I love watching the elite guys in person. So, I talked about how excited I was to go watch, Cam last weekend play center field for Clemson. I mean, that kid did not disappoint. He hits a bomb. That robbery of a home run was absolutely insane. And that one, was giving Lucas Moore a run for his money on the one he had taken away a week or two before. So, this Florida State team is just loaded with dudes. I mean, if you want to see the next MLB, superstars coming around, one of these dudes is going to be one of them. Mm-hmm. I mean, Arnold is going to be one of the first 2, 3. You said 5. Yeah. I mean, he's going to hear his name called mighty early. We beat him last year at Florida State, yep. Which is crazy. So, it's not to say that it's impossible, right? I mean, Evan Webster went pitch for pitch with that dude down in Tallahassee last year and out-dueled him. So, it's doable. But, man, top to bottom, this is the best team in the ACC. When you take everything into account, pitching, hitting, defense, all those, you want to take all three facets of the game into account. There's no doubt about it. This is the best team on paper. Games in Omaha are typically won on the mound and with defense, and that's what this team has. And so, where, like you mentioned last week, going into Clemson, they don't have as much that jumps off the page at you pitching wise. They did pitch very well, and they have a great closer, and that really, really helps them. I mean, maybe the best in the country. And so he leads the country in saves, maybe.
He does.
I think so. Yeah. At least he has the most saves. Maybe he's not the best, but he has the most. And so this weekend, though, much how I had said last week that Clemson is, got to be one of the 5, 6 favorites for Omaha for the national title. Florida State is also one of those teams, and maybe even higher on the pecking order than Clemson, even though at the current moment they're ranked behind them. And so there's so much on the table this weekend. And, man, that's why it would have been so great to get that game in the midweek so you didn't kind of feel maybe as much pressure coming into this weekend in terms of, oh, we really need one, or we need two, or whatever you wanted to look at it like. But they got dudes, but I'm going to tell you, man, we got dudes too. And that's what's fun to me, right? Like when you look, what do you think they look at us and think? Now, we're not going to have Forbes, right, this weekend. He's not going to be a part of the staff this weekend, and we don't have Detmers either. But man, we got some dudes that have been through the wars already on the mound. we're going to go Murphy. We're going to go Eberle. You got Peter Michael, who, you should have his full attention off of that start, right? He's going to be locked in, right, and ready to get back on the horse and go again. And when you look around, you talk about shortstop play with them. I mean, you're going to see two of the best in the country in the 6-hole playing the 6th spot on the diamond this weekend with Alisea. I mean, these guys are going to get the balls. It's going to be stupid. There's going to be SportsCenter top 10 highlights. It's going to be awesome. We've got Jake Monroe at third, hitting bombs. We got the best freshman home run hitter in the country at first. Eddie King just keeps hitting bombs. Lucas Moore, they broke his on-base and hit streak. He started another one. Zion's out there. He's driven in more runs already than he did last year, more extra base hits. We got dudes too, man. And so, I'm encouraged by that, right? Like, we get to go out and another opportunity to prove who we are and prove that we belong at this level too. And that's what I'm excited about.
Well, I think one big thing that's going to play into our advantage is we're 22-3 at home this year. And we're not 22-3 against, teams that are 200 in the RPI. Yeah, you sprinkle some in there. Sure, you play some midweeks against those teams. But, the 3 losses we've taken at home, I'm going off memory, North Carolina, St. John's, and California, I believe. I think those are the only 3 losses we have at home right now. So that's pretty darn impressive. I think I looked at the weather earlier today. Weather looks like it's going to be pretty good. 60s on Friday, 70s on Saturday, and then it's going to touch 80 on Sunday. So weather's going to look good.
To the stadium.
Yes, exactly. That's my point. Get to the stadium. This is a massive, massive series. If you're going to go watch one series all season long, this is the one. Go watch Florida State. Go watch Louisville play. This is if Louisville can pull out this series, which they can. You just outlined we've got dudes. It's not like we're a bunch of scrubs. This is a ranked team. We're 10-8 in the Atlantic Coast Conference. This isn't an easy conference. We've got a series win over North Carolina. They were top 5 or top 6 at that time. This is a damn good baseball team. But if Louisville can win this series this weekend, and they're going to need the fans to show up. We need support. But if they can win this series this weekend, Louisville all of a sudden, you're in the conversation to start hosting. If you can beat a Florida State type team, that's where you are. That's where we are right now. So if you don't have anything else going on this weekend, or even if you do, find a way to get to the ballpark for at least a game. I know it's a big commitment. Games are long, but get out there, even catch 5-6 innings if you can. Just get out there. If you got there early enough on Saturday, I'm going to be running the half marathon, so I may need a boost. So if you see me crawling up and down 3rd Street, just pick me up or put me in your pickup and carry me the rest of the way down the way. But we'll be up there this weekend to catch in a game or two. So if you can, make it up to 3rd and Central. I mean, the boys need it this weekend. They deserve it. I know they had a tough showing Tuesday night against Kentucky, and everybody's kind of down about that, but they really need it this weekend. And this is a massive win, a massive series that if we can win, we can get right back in the hosting conversation.
Yeah, and sorry for interrupting and telling everybody to get their butts in the stadium, but if you need me to, I'll, during the half marathon, I'm blanking on exactly where the guy was from, but I'm going to show my age here. But in the 92 Olympics, when that sprinter pulled his hamstring and his dad helped him limp across the finish line, if you need me, I can be that guy for you.
I don't know what mile it is, but we do run right past Jim Patterson Stadium. It's in the morning, so nobody will be there yet. But yeah, if you see somebody laid up on the sidewalk when you get there, because you get there a couple hours early, it's probably going to be me. So just go over and tap me and make sure I'm okay.
Just poke you and make sure you're still breathing, or get you a couple. You get the water cup as you go by, or whatever you may need. Yeah, sure. Get some electrolytes in you.
If I'm laying down on the ground, just go get me a Coors Light or something. I'm done with the race. I need something to pick me up.
Yeah, you've called it quits. Yeah, I understand. No, I mean, 100%. Get out to the ballpark, man. This team deserves, they deserve the fan support. And there's nothing, the weather, like you said, maybe maybe a little spotty shower potentially on Friday, but I mean they're going to get that game in. Looks like, and it's going to be 70s. It looks like most of the weekend. I mean, let's get people out there and support these guys in this huge series. They more than deserve everybody's support to get behind them this weekend. Like you mentioned, how good they've played at home. I mean, these guys have been nails at home, and it matters a lot. And the crowd, the encouragement, get behind them. Get on these umps like these, moron Clemson fans were doing. Get back there and yell at somebody to get in the circle or get in the box, or tell the ump that you think from section 205 that you know a strike better than he does from behind the plate, something like that. But there's nothing better, right, than a beautiful afternoon with a little baseball. In the spring, got Bark at the Park on Sunday. Bring your dog on out. A little later start at 3:00. So for some TV. So bring the pup out there. I know Art. We got the dog ready to roll again. So I don't know. She thinks she's a TV star. She keeps getting on TV whenever we bring her out there. She's usually one of only like 5 or 6 dogs out there. But hopefully more people bring their dogs out this weekend. I mean, like with the 3:00 first pitch, and again the good weather. Hopefully a bunch of people will come out there and get out on the berm. And look, man, let's pack this place this weekend for the boys, and let's make it a fun, great environment that's tough for Florida State to come in and win some ball games.
Yeah, and again, to recap, Florida State, number 4 team in the country, coming to Jim Patterson this weekend. We've got a 6:00 first pitch on Friday night, followed by 2:00 on Saturday, and then, like Terry said, 3:00 on Sunday, and it's going to be on the ACC network. But ignore that. It's just act like it's not on the ACC network. Act like you can't watch it, and go to the game. And take your dog, because dogs love baseball too. So they want to be there as much as you want to be there, and they want Louisville to win as much as you want to win. So let's pack this place out this weekend. Give the boys a little extra encouragement. Maybe you'll see a little walk-off magic. We've seen plenty of that this year. So just try to fill those seats and get there and support the boys as much as you can. We'll be back next week to talk about how we fared against Florida State. We've got Eastern Kentucky on Tuesday night as well at Jim Patterson Stadium, so we will host them on Tuesday. That's going to be it's going to be a rough one. Eastern, they're struggling this year. I've always been a big Eastern fan, but they're 288 in RPI this year, so it's going to be a tough one for the Colonels, I feel like, on Tuesday. But we'll be here to talk about it and talk about how we fare this weekend against the Seminoles. Hopefully pick up a big win, and we are catapulted up into the rankings a little bit. So in the meantime, Terry, I know you'll be there this weekend. We're going to try to catch a game or two ourselves. Hopefully good weather, good vibes, everything sent that way. In the meantime, let everybody know where they can catch you and where you post your post-game comments and everything from Coach Mack after the games.
Yeah, you can find me on X, right? Not Twitter, X. I always have to remember. You can find me on X at InsideVilleBSB. You can find me on YouTube at Inside Louisville Baseball. Just talk to Coach after the game and whatnot. Try to tweet throughout the game as well. Run around trying to see all these high school commits and signees as well. So I've seen 2 already this week. I got another one. Or I'm sorry, 2 games, three kids, and see another one tomorrow. I'll see 2 more next Monday. So we're making the rounds right now out, trying to get, just trying to get fans a look at who's next as well. And, just kind of get people introduced to the kids before they get here. I think that always helps fans out, just to kind of have at least a little bit of background on somebody before they arrive on campus. I know some other people or some other outlets and things do a pretty good job of that with like basketball and football, but just try and do that with baseball as well, to just let people be encouraged about what's coming up through the years into the baseball program. So yeah, appreciate everybody following along.
Yeah, and I think that's huge because, like you said, baseball and basketball and football, there's so much footage out there. There's so many people that get in front of these high school athletes and stuff. So the fact that you get out there and get that footage in the film and put it out there for people to see, just so they kind of have that, fans just have that connection to the player. So when they show up on campus, it's like, oh yeah, I know who that is. And instead of the first time they take them out, they're like, oh, they're a left-handed pitcher? I thought they were right. So it's just that familiarity they get with the guys that are coming up through the program. So appreciate everything you do there. Obviously, his videos, press conferences and all that good stuff after the games are always insightful. So if you're not following along, I'd highly encourage you to do so, because you'll find out some good information from Coach Mack after all the games, and the players as well. So you can also find me on X at Matt Sefcovic. You can find our podcast on X at Third Central Pod. If you haven't already, do us a favor, like us, rate us, all that good stuff, wherever you're listening, Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcast. We appreciate it, and it goes a long way. Like I said, we'll be back next week to talk about how the series goes against the Seminoles and prepare everybody for next weekend against Notre Dame, which is going to be a big opportunity for the Cards. But we'll dive deep into that next week. And in the meantime, we will see you at the ballpark.